The following video contains a series of true stories about real-life encounters with absolutely undesirable and disturbing people whom, as the Reddit thread from which they were obtained, one would simply rather not meet and avoid at all times. These are the type of stories where your gut feeling tells you something is wrong. You get nervous and frightened because your life is at risk and in danger. Furthermore, I'd like to give big thanks to Chantal for collaborating with me in this video. Chantal, as jeg hierna kijk, wil ik hier jij moet weet dat ik lief is voor jouw stem en jouw vriendschap waardeer. Ik bedank jou voor de hulp. Ik bedank jou voor de hulp. Without further ado, let us begin. Story number 1.
A memory from my Year 3 school camp came back to me, and now I can't stop thinking about how weird it was. I live in a regional city in Australia. It's relatively big, but once you leave the center of the city, it's pretty much all bushland and trees. I'm writing this in June 2025, but this happened at some point in my second decade of life. When I was in Year 3, 7 to 8 years old, my school took all the year on a school camp to a campground 45 minutes out of town. It was a one-night trip, and we were all super excited. After a long day of archery, basketball, tennis, and all the other things you do on camps, we had dinner and went to bed. I distinctly remember laughing and messing around with all my friends before we all fell asleep around 11 p.m. Now the next part I had forgotten for years, until only recently it came back up in my mind. And now it's the clearest part of my memory. I used to be terrified of the dark and used to wake up multiple times at night. This certain instance, I woke up in my cabin at around 2 a.m. I remember this as I had a watch that was very special to me, and for some reason, looking at it and checking the time comforted me in the dark. When I woke up, I felt like something was off. Not wrong, but off. I looked around my cabin and saw nothing of interest, but then I was struck with such an intense feeling to just look out of the window. It was right next to my bed. Our room was on the second level of this cabin complex, so when you looked out the window, you had to look down to see the ground directly below you. When looking out the window, I saw nothing, and just when I started to look away, something caught my eye. I could have sworn I saw something right below the window, almost out of sight if you were simply looking forward. I looked down and I saw someone, not the average person, more like a tweaker. He was tall, maybe 6'3", 6'4", and his skin looked like he had just fallen hard on cement. He was covered in scrapes and grazes, and his hair had been all buzzed off. He looked about 40, but I think he may have been mid-20s, based on his super skinny build. He wore a dirty black hoodie and black jeans that looked like motorbike pants. He also wore what looked like a mix between a fedora and a cowboy hat. The image I've attached is almost exactly the same, if it looked more like a human. When I looked down, his eyes caught mine instantly. He was staring into the window. He didn't move his head there when he saw me. No, he had been actively staring into that window before I was even there. He stared with such wide eyes, like he was straining all the muscles in his face to pop his eyes out as much as possible. The second we locked eyes, I ducked back down and hid under the covers. I wanted to scream and yell and tell my friends, but I was so scared that I couldn't even move. I waited under those covers for what felt like hours until I felt like I was safe. I slowly peeked out from the covers again and checked the window. He was still there. He had moved a bit to the right, but he was still there, staring intently at my window. I didn't even get to become fully level with the window before I ducked out of sight again and went back under the covers, whimpering. I'm not sure how, but I managed to fall asleep. When I woke up, it was lights out, and all my friends were happily awaking after their sleep. I woke up and checked the window again, praying he was gone, and luckily he was. I told my friends about it that morning, and they all laughed at me for having a nightmare, and I think I believed it. I forgot about it for 10 years, but when it came back to me the other week, I realized that it couldn't have been a dream. Everything was so real. I have very weird dreams, never having one that actually makes sense. My dreams always flow so weirdly, so the absolute consistency is almost proof to me that this actually happened. Also, I specifically remember laying under my covers for ages, something that I doubt would happen in a dream. I've no idea who was outside my window or what he was doing. I just hope that he isn't continuing with what he was doing, because that look in his eyes told me that whatever he was doing there, he wasn't messing around. I don't know what I saw, but I just wish I had an answer.
Story number 2.
I almost got stabbed by a homeless woman. English is not my first language, so there may be spelling mistakes. I'm a 25-year-old girl, and this happened maybe 8 to 9 years ago, and I was 16 to 17 years old then. I'm writing these lines in June 2025. I'm from a small village, and I went to school in the nearest big city, which was about 40 kilometers away, around 24.85 miles. Because public transportation was so bad, just to get home I had to change buses twice, and if I missed the last transfer and my parents went home, I had no way to get home unless they came for me, or I had to walk 4 kilometers or 2.5 miles. I lived in a dormitory during the week in the city where I studied. I stayed in the city during the week and went home on Fridays, then back again on Sundays. I always got off the bus at the main station when I arrived in the city, around 2 p.m. My boyfriend, who came from another town, also studied in the city. He came by train. Every Sunday I waited for him at the station for about an hour and a half, and then we went to the dormitory together. That day was no different. I was waiting for him, sitting upstairs at the station in a spot where I could see the entire ground floor from above. I had my headphones in and on my phone, just sitting there. Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed a homeless woman wandering around. She sometimes stood still and looked around, but I didn't pay much attention. There are a lot of homeless people in that area. Time passed. I was still sitting, headphones on, phone in hand. Then I saw the homeless woman start walking in my direction. I still didn't think much of it. When she was about few feet away from me, I noticed she was talking to other people who were sitting nearby, probably asking for money. A few moments later, she started walking toward me again. I saw her, but I didn't lift my head. Then she stopped in front of me. That's when I looked up. She just stared at me. Her eyes looked like she was high on something, and she was slightly swaying. She was dirty, honestly disgusting to look at. Some green liquid was dripping from the corner of her mouth, and her face was dirty. She wore a thick coat, grey pants, black boots, even though it was spring, and had a black backpack. She had short brown hair, brown eyes, looked around 40, though she could have been younger. I saw her lips moving. She was talking to me. I took out my headphones and gave her my attention. I'm not a rude person, and I always try to speak kindly to people. But when I removed my headphones, she went silent, just stared at me. "What? Could you say that again?" I asked her. Then she spoke again, and I didn't understand a single word, just mumbling. She stared at me with those glassy eyes. I shook my head. "Sorry, I can't understand what you're saying," I told her and looked at her. At this point, I felt my heart beat faster. I got scared. I didn't know what she wanted, and something about her made me really uncomfortable. She started mumbling again, and while she mumbled, she began searching for something in her coat pocket with her right hand. I looked down at her hand to see what she was doing or what she wanted from me. At this point, I thought maybe she needed help with something. I looked back up into her eyes and waited to see what was going to happen. Then I saw her pull her hand out of her coat, and I looked down at her hand again. She was still mumbling, and I saw a piece of glass in her hand. She slowly slid it up under her coat to her forearm, holding the sharp end in her palm. It was pretty big, sharp, probably around 15 centimeters or 6 inches. That's when I realized something was very wrong. My eyes widened. I was scared. I asked her one last time, a bit more irritated now, "What do you want from me?" I knew there were people around me. It was a train station in broad daylight, so I didn't think she would actually do anything. Well, suddenly she stepped toward me and pushed the glass toward me, toward my neck. I reacted immediately. I jumped up in time, pushed her away, and yelled at her, "What the fuck are you doing?" She started mumbling more angrily. I had no idea what she was saying. My whole body was shaking, and I was terrified. I grabbed my travel bag quickly, all while keeping my eyes on her. She was still mumbling angrily, holding a glass shard in front of her, staring at me. "Leave me alone! Go to hell!" I shouted at her again. And as I rushed off, I saw that everyone at the station was watching us. I ran outside the station and saw some police officers nearby. I felt relieved. I walked toward them, but I didn't say anything. I knew that if I told them, they'd probably just tell her to leave, and that would be it. So I just stayed close to them. A few moments later, I saw the woman come outside too. She was walking in my direction, angrily looking at me. I didn't see the glass in her hand anymore. I grabbed my bag and walked to a different part of the station. Courtyard where she couldn't see me. I was trembling, scared, and in shock. I never saw her again. A bit later, my boyfriend arrived, and I told him what happened. He was surprised and worried too. He told me never to wait for him at the station again, and I didn't. From that point on, I always waited for him at the dormitory. Even now, every time I go to that station, which is rare, I get anxious and stay alert. I still live in that city now, even after finishing school, and I'm still with my boyfriend. We live together. Just knowing what could have happened there if I hadn't reacted in time, or if I just ignored her, it still scares me. So to the homeless woman who might not even be alive anymore, if you are, let's not meet again.
Story number 3.
A shirtless, drugged-out stranger tried to break in while I was alone at home. Hi Reddit, I'm relating this to you. June 2025. This happened to me in August 2024, during the middle of a gloomy Melbourne winter. It still gives me chills to think about it. For context, I had just started a new job and was working from home while being trained over Microsoft Teams. My husband was at work, about 45 kilometers away, and I was completely alone in our new house. We had only moved in a couple of months prior into a developing suburb. At that point, the street was practically deserted, just one neighbor beside me and another all the way at the end of the road. Everyone else, empty lots and half-built houses. Around 3 p.m., although still daytime, it was already dark due to the thick winter clouds. I was sitting in our theatre room, which faces the front of the house. The blinds were partially shut, not enough for full privacy, but enough that you'd need to look closely to see in. Out of nowhere, I hear a knock, not a doorbell, just knocking. That was odd. Door-to-door salespeople usually ring, and I wasn't expecting any parcels. I got this immediate uneasy feeling and checked our security camera. Standing there was a huge, shirtless man, clearly high or drunk, swaying, aggressive, and peering directly through the narrow glass panels on my front door. When I didn't respond, he started banging louder and louder and yelling for me to open up. The aggression was escalating fast.
Open up! Open up! Open up!
Thank God we had a security screen door installed. But even with that barrier, I was panicking. I was home alone, no one else was nearby, and help was not going to come quickly. I tried to keep calm, but then he wandered to a nearby construction site, grabbed a piece of wood, and began smashing it against my security door. That was it. I called the cops. They could hear the banging on the call and immediately told me to get into the master bedroom, lock that door, then get into the ensuite bathroom and lock too. That way, there'd be 2 locked doors between me and this guy in case he made it through inside.
Open up! Open up! Open up!
The next 20 minutes were the longest in my life. He didn't give up. He moved to the side gate and tried climbing over it, which leads directly to the back of my house. I've glass sliding doors back there, and it hit me. They'd be easy to break. I rushed to shut the roller shutters. As they were coming down, he saw them and lost it. He began pounding on those now, furious, completely unhinged. Then finally, siren. The police arrived, saw his car parked all crooked in front of my house, noticed the muddy footprints and immediately jumped the side gate. They caught him mid-rage at my back doors. He was detained, but because of local laws here, people under the influence have to be medically sobered up before arrest so that the cops aren't liable if anything happens while they're high. So they called an ambulance, took him away, and also towed his car. A cop returned to my door later to explain the situation. Apparently this guy was completely out of his mind and had mistaken my house for a drug house. There was one all the way down the street that had some shady activity, and he thought mine was it. I still remember calling my neighbor during all this, telling her to not open the door no matter what, because she has 2 small kids and I didn't want anyone else getting hurt. This whole experience left me shaken for weeks. I still can't express how grateful I am that my husband had insisted on installing roller shutters and reinforced security doors when we moved in. If we hadn't, I don't even want to think about it. So the coked out lunatic who tried to break into my house while I was alone. Let's not meet ever. Edit. I've added some pictures from our security cam below to confirm the validity of the story.
Story number 4.
Beware the sympathy trap. How a grieving son turned creepy fast. This is a long one. Bear with me. A bit of context before I begin. I'm a woman. I'm 21 as I wrote this in June 2025, and I work in the hospitality industry, specifically during graveyard shifts, usually running from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. I've seen and dealt with some of the most insane experiences. I could probably write a book at this point, but this particular experience was one of the most frightening. I was brought up to be caring, empathetic, and understanding. These core values mean a lot to me, and I live by them. On numerous occasions, I've been told that constantly having this mentality could lead to me being targeted by people with ill intentions. And I didn't believe that. It's nice to be nice, after all. But in hindsight, after everything that's happened, I've learned to be a bit more skeptical. Usually on these graveyard shifts, there's 2 of us in the building at all times, and when we finish our work, we are basically free to sit down and relax for the remainder of our shift, or at least until the morning manager arrived at roughly 6 a.m. So I did just that, finishing my tasks, and sat down in the main area of the building to have a late night snack and watch some reels on my phone, as you do. My co-worker decided he would take a nap, as it was roughly 3 a.m. at this point, and nobody was around. Fine by me. About 20 minutes passed when I heard a commotion near the bar area. Obviously, I looked up from my phone only to meet the eyes of this man, about 40 maybe, just standing at the bar counter. This wasn't unusual. Oftentimes, people would come down to grab some water or a smoke before heading back to bed. I thought nothing of it and went back to doom scrolling on my phone. Sorry, excuse me, I let out a sigh, thinking to myself, what could this man possibly want from me at 3:30 a.m.? I stood up and asked if he was okay and apologized for being on my phone, hoping he wouldn't complain to my manager in the morning. He responded, but I couldn't quite pick up what he was saying. I walked over to the bar and kindly asked him to repeat himself, apologizing for not hearing him. Is it okay if I have some water? He was shaking, almost nervous. Soft-spoken, honestly non-threatening, bar the fact that he was about 6 feet tall and I'm 5 feet tall. Of course I said yes and went to walk away when he stopped me. I'm sorry, is it okay if I talk to you for a while? My mom is dying in hospital and I can't sleep. Looking back, I'm kicking myself for not making up some excuse about me needing to do work, but I agreed to stay and talk with him. Stupid fucking empathy. He asked if I smoked, and I do, so I said yes. He then asked me to step outside to smoke and talk, and I stupidly agreed. We talked about his mom, and I tried my best to comfort him. I just recently had someone pass away, so this topic of conversation hit me particularly hard. He thanked me for being so kind and continued to talk about his life, how he used to be homeless, but he moved in with his sister and got back on his feet, and that they were both staying here due to the circumstances, but were not from the city. I listened and occasionally responded by nodding. It was a polite conversation, but Then something changed.
Are there cameras out there? Are there cameras out here? I wouldn't want you getting into trouble for being out there.
How this didn't register in my mind as a red flag is unbelievable. How gullible can you be? Anyway, thankfully, I didn't respond with yes or no, just assured him I wouldn't get into trouble for being outside smoking. He seemed disappointed with my answer. I presume because he didn't get any information about where the cameras were placed. The conversation kept getting weirder and creepier. None of this I realized. I just saw a sad man needing a friend. Yes, I know. I'm stupid and I'm angry at myself too. Eventually, some form of fight or flight activated in my brain. I told him I was cold and was going to head in. Come here, give me a hug. It'll warm you up. What the fuck? At this point, I'm creeped out, but thinking maybe he's just bad at picking up social cues or something. So I declined and walked inside. He followed. He asked if he could grab coffee and sit with me for a while. And being by myself, on the verge of a panic attack, and not wanting to get on this guy's bad side, I agreed. We sat there and he continued to ask odd questions. Do you have kids? No. Do you want kids? Do you have a boyfriend?
Do you have kids? Do you want kids? Do you have a boyfriend?
I told him I have a fiancé. I lied. Do you love him? I mean no harm in asking these questions. You're so beautiful.
Do you love him? I mean no harm in asking these questions. You're so beautiful.
At this point, my brain was screaming at me to get out of this situation. I had to think quick. Come sit next to me. I won't bite.
Come sit next to me. I won't bite.
Fuck no. I quickly made up the excuse that I had to get the area ready for the morning and that my manager would be showing up any minute. At the same time, my co-worker woke from his nap and passed by to get a coffee. This startled the man and he stood up before saying, "Tell your mom I was asking for her."
Tell your mom I was asking for her.
Forcing a hug and left to go to his room. Oh my fucking God. He was pretending to be a family friend so that my co-worker wouldn't be suspicious of him. I stood there in shock, not even being able to speak. My brain was still trying to process what the fuck just happened. I kept quiet, helping my co-worker set up for the morning as it was now 5:30 a.m. Yes, I was dealing with this man for 2 fucking hours. I sat down at 5:50 and waited for my manager to show up so that I could finally go home, hoping that man wouldn't come back here before I got to leave. Wishful thinking. He showed up behind me out of nowhere. I think I'll go to the shops. I'm out of smokes, okay?
I think I'll go to the shops. I'm out of smokes.
I need to know this. Why? I kept silent before he asked me for my pen, which I gave him, and he walked off again. He returned 5 minutes later and gave me back my pen.
I wrote a note for you.
Stood close to me, dropped a piece of cardboard behind my back and walked away. In hindsight, I see how sneaky this was. He made sure no one could see him dropping that note. I picked it up. It was pretty weird, but one line in particular made my skin crawl.
Wear tighter work pants for me next time. They'd look good. Harmless.
I ran to the office and sat in front of the CCTV monitor, seeing exactly where he was. He was standing outside the building, pacing, waiting. He then walked back into the building, and on the camera I could see he was looking for me. But thankfully at this point I was in the office, so he walked back outside, started pacing again, and waiting before hiding himself out of sight behind the corner. I told my manager, who told me to exit via the back entrance, which I did. I was shaking, checking behind me every few seconds, every noise making me run faster and faster until eventually I reached the safety of my home. I sat down, processing what had just happened, when suddenly my phone vibrated.
Hey, it's me. Thanks for the chat. Talk soon.
How the fuck did he get my number? I've never blocked someone quicker in my life. I told the higher ups what had happened and didn't return to work for at least a month, and until he was permanently barred from my workplace. I still fear I'll see him somewhere, that he'll be waiting. Thankfully, I haven't seen him since and don't wish to. And if you're reading this, let's not meet again.
Story number 5.
My ex has been stalking me. Let me just say I was young and dumb when I met him. I'm 18 years old. I met him when I was 16. I was never in a relationship before him. I was a bigger girl and just had an extremely hard time getting guys to like me. I met him on Snapchat. I didn't realize it then, but he had love-bombed the hell out of me. I was so lost in the feeling of being wanted that I ignored the extreme red flags. After only a week of talking, he convinced me to meet him at his house to hook up. He lived almost an hour away from me, and I was a new driver. Anyways, how we met is not the point. He showed extreme signs of being a narcissist and even admitted to me that he believes himself to be a sociopath. But I never let the red flags keep me from leaving him. He was possessive over me and manipulated me into believing he was the only one there for me, made me cut off my friends, and even made me distance myself from my family. He cheated on me so many times. I caught him 3 times. He admitted to me that out of the 18 months we were together, he was faithful for 3, which is bullshit. He cheated on me the entire time. I had evidence of which, but in the end, he kept lying to save his own ass. I have extreme abandonment issues due to my father. My abandonment issues aren't only about me. I have a deep fear of abandoning people who need someone. I thought he needed me. He was going into the Marines. His ship date was late June of 2024. A few days before he shipped off, I proposed to him. I know, I'm fucking stupid. Don't get me started on how much I hate myself in this situation. But if you have ever been emotionally and psychologically abused, you can understand that you simply cannot think about yourself and your safety. You think about what is best for your abuser so that they are happy, so that they don't have a reason to abuse you. We made it through boot camp. We sent letters all 13 weeks. It felt so magical to know someone loved me enough to stay true to our relationship through something difficult as long-distance military relationship. I loved him so much. I saved money to drive down to California to see him graduate. It was amazing, and what I thought were the best days of my life. He was still quiet and reserved. He always was. I never saw a problem with it because he was his true self when he was with me. When he came home from California, he lived with me. He had a bad relationship with his parents and made me believe he had nowhere else to go. This was my mistake, because once he moved in, I was truly trapped. He did RA late August, late October. He shipped back off to California for his schooling, and so started our long distance again. One morning in March of this year, I woke up and checked my phone. If you have ever been cheated on and stayed, you just become paranoid. He had 2 Instagram accounts, one of which he blocked me on. I created another Instagram account just so I can watch his followers and his posts. He started following more and more women. On that day, he had posted on his main account a story that was hidden from me. He posted a joke about cheating on your dumb girlfriend. You don't joke about shit you have done. So again, I sent him a message explaining just how unfucking funny it was and how he knows how much that shit traumatized me. Afterwards, I was done. I messaged girls he followed on his account and learned he was on dating apps. After that, it was the end of us. There was 3 days of communicating. On April 2nd, I took his belongings to his parents' house and blocked him. Told him to never contact me again. Everything was silent for a few weeks. I was healing. This man abused me for almost 2 years. He made me believe so many nasty things about myself and my family. I would go into more details, but at this point, this shit is a novel. One night, late April, I got a text on my phone. Package arrived. I was confused and responded with a question mark. The number told me there was something on my porch. When I opened my door, there was a notebook sitting there. Mind you, it was 11 p.m. at night, so I'm freaked the fuck out. Front to back, this notebook was filled with letters from my ex. I refused to read it. He had gotten out of the Marines on other than honorable discharge, and he moved to the city next to mine. He hated my town and how desolate it was. He moved 20 minutes away from me just so he could be close. He could have moved anywhere, but he moved to a town he hated just to be close to me. And he also doesn't have a car, so he rode his bike 13 miles just to drop off this on my porch. I gave the notebook to my parents and messaged the number back to never contact me again and to never come near my house, or else I will be calling the authorities. I blocked the number. That night, I slept in my parents' bedroom. I cried so much. At 1:30 a.m., I got another message on my phone from a different number than before saying, "Can you honestly tell me you've enjoyed this past month?" It took this psycho 3 hours to have a new number and start texting me again. I sent a very long, nasty message describing just how great my life was without him, and again told him not to contact me. I had to change my number, my garage code, and my front door code. A few weeks later, I got 3 letters in the mail from him, all very possessive and nasty. One was a suicide note, describing exactly how and why he killed himself. I called his city's dispatch and sent a wellness check. He was alive. He told the officer that he was just upset. I had done a lot to try to get him into some sort of mental care. He refused time and time again. I told the officer to tell him directly that if he contacted me again in any way, that I'd be filing for a stalking and harassment report. Lo and behold, a week or so later, I get a message on Facebook from a very, very fake account. All of its posts and information were clear indicators that it was him. Unfortunately, I had to read that notebook he left on my porch, and holy fucking shit, when I say he's crazy, he is fucking crazy. In the notebook, he admitted to lying to me about attempting suicide, lied to me about being hospitalized, lied to me about going into psych. He said it was better for me to believe us breaking up made him suicidal. He also admitted to a lot of illegal activity, and that he cheated on every single girl he was with. The whole notebook traumatized me even more. I went to the police station and filed a report. 2 days after I filed the report, I got more letters in the mail from him. One admitted to him watching me from a hill outside my house, and the other was him trying to return our engagement rings that I left with his belongings. He told me that it was smart to change my phone number, but that I could not change my address, so he would keep sending me letters until he won me over again. The last 2 letters were sent from a different state. That means he moved away. I'm very happy that I don't have to worry about my physical safety anymore. But every week I get more and more letters. He's obsessed with me and I simply don't understand why. He cheated because some fucked up part of his brain wasn't satisfied with me. And now that he's without me, he's literally going fucking crazy. I never want to see that man again. I'm terrified of him. I still look over my shoulder thinking he will be there even though he moved. Every time I get a call or text from a random number, I think it's him and panic, even though I changed my phone number. I have nightmares of him. He mentally fucked me up so bad, and I can only realize that now he's gone. I hope he stops sending me letters or that he goes to jail. This will happen to another girl if he is not punished. I want justice for myself, but I also want to protect that future girl. I truly fucking hate him and I wish the worst for him.